Now, given that Netflix is dealing with a lot of pushback and a lot of backlash from the general public ever since they decided to double down on Meghan Markle's nonsense by allowing her to come forward with multiple one-off projects here and there, it's going to differ widely, by the way, than her $100 million contract deal. That is no longer a thing over at Netflix. Instead, they are going to do this project by project to see exactly what works and what doesn't work for Netflix. And this is all because of Ted Sarandos. Ted Sarandos is basically the sole individual to blame as to why Meghan remains at Netflix even after her contract expired. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, one thing about Netflix right now is that, yes, you do have two CEOs. You got Greg Peters, who has a level-headed, mind when it comes to the world's view of Netflix. And then you got Ted Sarandos, who really has no clue what he's doing over there. He has no idea what he's talking about. And obviously, Meghan Markle has something on the guy to allow him to cave into her demands. But what's interesting here has a lot more to do with Greg Peters specifically and what he did to humiliate Meghan Markle in the midst of the ongoing ratings disaster known as Season 2 of With Love Meghan. Now, interestingly enough, we know that Greg Peters is trying to salvage whatever's left of Netflix at this point when it comes to a lot of customers that are deciding to leave the platform, heading to other platforms out there like Disney Plus even, or even, of course, other ones out there like, for example, you got others like Peacock, you got HBO Max. I mean, there's a lot of other avenues to pursue, right? Even Amazon Prime Video. However, interestingly enough, with Meghan Markle desperately trying to do damage control over the ratings disaster known as Season 2 for With Love Meghan, one significant development going on now involves more to do with Netflix CEO Greg Peters and how he recently humiliated Meghan Markle in front of many people and how it has to do with the second season of her Netflix series. Now, a swift move that was done by Greg Peters involved how he put together a very intense meeting between himself, Meghan Markle, and the many executives and producers to go over the ratings for the actual second season of the show. Now, Ted Sarandos was also involved in this meeting. However, there was a moment where Meghan Markle started to bring up a talking point that she believed the ratings were fake and that the reviews were manufactured only by haters. This kickstarted an argument between both Meghan Markle and Greg Peters, where they were debating each other and challenging each other on the concept of review bombing and fake reviews. Now, Greg Peters reportedly humiliated Meghan Markle by pointing out a graph, a very specific graph, pinpointing exactly where viewers bailed out of the show, on average, and it so happened to occur during the improvised sessions that were filmed by Meghan Markle that didn't involve a script. Improvised material that Meghan Markle proposed months ago to Netflix that she believed would actually connect with the audience and relate to the audience. In the long run, it shot Netflix in the foot and put them in a deeper hole in this scenario. Now, Greg Peters pointed out all of this, of course, to the point that where Meghan Markle was speechless and had nothing else to say, to the point where she left the room with some of the producers and cut the meeting short. However, prior to when she left, she called Greg Peters an incompetent CEO and leader of Netflix and why she prefers Ted Sarandos and his leadership. Now, this, of course, put into a scenario where Peters shut her down by raising his voice in the meeting and informed her that Netflix lost millions of dollars because of her abysmal acting skills and that he suggested that she take acting lessons to improve her other shows. Greg Peters also convinced the board of directors after this meeting to slash more funds for the Meghan Markle Christmas special, and they shockingly agreed to do so since the ratings for Season 2 were just that bad. Now, guys, let me just say one thing about this before I move on. Now, the fact that the board is now beginning to fall into Greg Peters' demands goes to show you that there's a lot of issues going on right now with Season 2 of With Love Meghan. The ratings were that bad to the point where basically the board had no other chance. They had no other opportunity but to actually agree with Greg Peters. Now, we know one thing about Greg is that he knows a lot of things about statistics, he knows a lot of things about ratings, and it's something that I feel Ted Sarandos isn't quite as knowledgeable as Greg Peters is in when it comes to connecting with an audience, connecting with the crowd, stuff like that, understanding your core customer base, your business model. And that's exactly what's going on here. Greg is pointing out the obvious, and he really put Meghan Markle in her place by really calling out what everyone else was thinking, essentially, right? What even the general public is thinking right now. Now, in addition to all of this, Greg Peters also humiliated Meghan Markle by pointing out to Meghan during their argument that her pregnancy video, get this, was the most absurd publicity stunt he saw in his career. And Greg mocked her pregnancy video multiple times during the emergency meeting at Netflix, and how he called it, quote-unquote, destructive behavior coming from Meghan Markle and costing millions of dollars for Netflix in the long run. These vocal attacks from Greg Peters created more division between himself and Ted Sarandos, who is defending Meghan Markle still for unknown reasons behind the scenes. And you know what? I think it's a good call for Greg Peters to really tell it like it is, that the pregnancy video made things a lot worse. And it certainly did, because, look, we now have a lot more critics toward Meghan Markle prior to that pregnancy video, which did go viral for the wrong reasons. Prior to that, there were a lot of people that knew nothing about Meghan Markle, didn't know who she was, and were eventually, of course, led to know exactly who she was really over at Netflix, what she was all about for her show With Love Meghan, season 1 and 2, the drama surrounding that. A lot of people just learned more about her, kind of like what happened with South Park. You guys may recall that back in 2023, a lot more people learned about Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy, right? The sole individual that destroyed the Star Wars brand. Prior to that, there were a lot of people that knew nothing about Kathleen Kennedy. So it's kind of similar in this sense, where that pregnancy video actually brought in a lot of people to know who Meghan Markle was. And not for the better, by the way. But moving on, this is all happening in the midst of many problems rising for the production of this Christmas special by Meghan Markle, with funds now getting slashed and concepts for scenes getting cancelled as we speak. Now, the Christmas special is still on. They're trying to get this thing out by December of this year. It's going to be quite a mess, an ugly mess at that, because you have a lot of setbacks, you have a lot of funds getting slashed for the marketing campaign of this thing. I don't think it's going to work out at all in Meghan's favor, not even in the favor of Netflix, because if anything, you're worsening your image, right? You're worsening how people perceive you as a studio, how you run things as a company, and that's exactly why people are just moving to other platforms. They're tired of rates going up, prices going up for their subscription plans because of overspending, especially on projects like this. And regardless of the funds getting cut, they're still spending way too much money on Meghan Markle. They already spent millions upon millions of dollars, $100 million contract deal for starters, and then you have all these one-off projects coming at Netflix one after the other. It's too much, and people are tired of it. But overall, I would love to hear what everyone has to say about all this below in the comments between Meghan, Greg Peters, Ted Sarandos. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.